All right, is it recording for you guys? Let's see.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Hi everyone, welcome. This is Team 2. My name is Angeli DeJesus, and if we can just go around the room and introduce ourselves. So Dr. Chanley has our names.
Hi, it's Dave Hirsch.
Rob Osmondson.
Danielle Fulton.
Oh, sorry. Jessica Long.
Danielle Fulton.
And Tessa Stancione.
Perfect, thank you. So today we are doing the team charter, and I have it on the screen here. So we'll go ahead and get started. Team charter number 2, for team number 2, and we'll edit this as we go. And like we said earlier when we were before this recording, we'll go through, fill it out, and then go back or circle back around and kind of edit and wordsmith as get our final product. So we'll go section by section. So membership, this is pretty straightforward. Everybody is to put their name and info in. If you want to, Jessica, if you want to just give me your info, I'll type it in here.
Okay. And then my email is jlong28@asu.com. I mean .edu. What am I saying? .com.
And then phone number?
It's 978-325-0835.
Okay, and Danielle Bolton. Email address for Danielle?
It is DMF or DM Fulton or FULTO 2@asu.edu.
Does that look right?
Yes.
Okay. And the phone number?
937-532-9664.
Perfect. Okay. The second section of the team charter that we need to talk about is purpose. So just some thoughts around, what's everybody's thoughts around that? Dave, you're on mute right now. I think you're speaking.
I was going to say that George Washington site just says clearly define the purpose of the team, so it's pretty straightforward.
Do you guys have, because are we providing our ideas to type in at this point, or are we waiting towards the end?
I think we can type in our ideas right now and then make it a more formal statement afterwards.
Yeah, for me, just my thoughts around purpose is have a highly collaborative team to highly collaborative team working towards completing assignments.
Common goal.
Yeah, a few of the things that I liked from the website and from the reading were that it creates synergies that were interdependent and accountable, and that we're actively cooperative with one another.
I'm getting feedback. I don't know where it's coming from. Okay, it stopped, but Tessa, I'm sorry, I heard synergy.
And then that we're interdependent and accountable, and that we're actively cooperative with one another.
What was the last word? Actively
Cooperative.
What are other thoughts around purpose of a team?
All working towards the same goal.
Okay.
I think that last one may have kind of already been stated in the first line. The same goal, common goal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least we're on the same page with that one.
Sorry, for some reason I thought she didn't write that, but now I see it. So whoops.
I didn't until he said it either. I didn't see it.
I'm gonna write it down. I didn't know if it was going anywhere else after that. Okay. Do you guys want to move on, or are there any other thoughts on purpose?
Well, I think the purpose of our group being that this is a class, and maybe this is more of a goal than a purpose, but to learn from this, like how teams function, how they perform efficiently, and also maybe learn from each other. I don't know, put that in there somehow.
Okay, so next is goals. Goals clearly and specifically state the team's tasks and process goals, as well as measure for each goal. As well as measures for each goal.
So like it says, it does say that they're clearly specific, but clearly defining our goals. We want to make sure that they have, that they take all the stakeholders into consideration. So our goals are a group goal. They incorporate all of our thoughts together, and that we work effectively with one another. So again, as a team, making sure that our goals are the same together.
I guess when I look at goals, I think about being able to make every call or connection, and building. I think a big part of this team is just becoming a team, and participating within that team.
I like that, but I think we should also be very specific about things like assignments and due dates, and making sure that all of our contributions are complete, full.
So like here we would list out meeting every Thursday, and list out the dates that we're meeting. Is that what you're, like, things like that? And then also like this being due this week, like list out the date and the time when one of us would be posting it, with the video and the document as well. So very specific as far as kind of like a plan behind the, like around the syllabus and class schedule. Is that how you guys understand goals?
Yeah, in general, I don't think we have to list each one of the things in the syllabus, but I think just in general, we should state that we're going to try to, like you said, meet on Thursdays, have our discussions done, and all the deliverable dates for the class.
And then that's a little bit further down to after roles is expectations. So I feel like we can sort of clarify that within our expectations too, if that makes sense, because it does have how you will do it, how you present it to be graded, and what percent of the overall grade will each section be. So breaking all of those goals, I guess, that we're going to set down into how they're breaking up. I don't know if you guys have looked or like down to more, but to incorporate the goals with the expectations in the following boxes. Be there with the communication, teamwork, participation.
Got it. Okay.
It also states in the sample postings for the discussions that we shouldn't be listing just ideas. I know this isn't just like the final draft, but just keep that in the back of your head.
Got it. I guess I'm a little confused as to what's being asked then. Let me just pull it up one more time because I read through it and want to make sure I understand it.
I think the confusion's caused, she kind of lays out, you know, a very prescriptive thing if you're doing it as a discussion in writing, but it's not as clear, like what are you going to do, like we're doing it as a video thing. And so are we supposed to actually talk about each one of these generally and say, oh, for expectations, you know, we have to clearly and specifically define expectations and measure, blah, blah, blah. Or are we just supposed to, in general, discuss that and then just write down, like we're doing, like basic notes on, you know, what we think it is, and then start editing from there?
So what it says in the sample posting for discussion that she did do for the actual written one, at the top it does say that the discussion postings, I guess what we're doing now, we're posting. It says they should focus on the ideal team charter, not on the team charter you will develop for your own team. So I think in our discussions here, we're supposed to be talking about, I guess, what our ideal is for it, based on what it says in this discussion simple posting. It says, for example, if you look at the assigned readings webpage related to teamwork, there's a section about organizing and setting direction that lists the type of information about goals that should be included. It lists the following: setting clear goals. What do we want to accomplish? How will we measure attainment? And so on. And then in the goals box, it literally has, according to Team Leadership Research Guide, it says that a statement is an outcome or a goal. So it's almost defining it, it seems, in this paper, which I think is kind of what we did in the first box, but then we all got confused with this goals one in the second box, because it is a little odd to try to talk about what we're supposed to do when we don't really know what we're supposed to do.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is, in theory, we're supposed to talk about, I guess, the theory behind each section first, in general, not with us in mind, just like the ideal team charter for any sort of team, not write any notes, and then go back and after our discussion, start typing notes.
Maybe that is better.
Because that's kind of like the written version, kind of the same thing that everybody else is doing, that's doing it online in discussion boards. And just what go through each section and talk about it based on what we read, what the videos that any videos or any websites that you looked at this week from the content. Is that about right, or?
Yeah, if you want to do that, I think we should probably just step through that pretty quickly then, going through each one of these.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, let's get going. Do you guys want to go back up to purpose and go from and start over?
I think purpose looks pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we could just stick with goals and move forward.
Okay, let's start with goals then. So in an ideal team charter, what are your guys' thoughts around goals?
I think one goal for a team would probably be to complete all tasks in a timely manner and complete them fully. I don't know how to define that, but
I think for my ideal team charter, like the first and foremost thing would be communication and full engagement of each team member.
Yeah, I think of goals more as task specific. Like, what are the milestones that we're going to hit? I don't know, we can come back to that, but I think some of that other stuff, like maybe communication, fits better in some of the other boxes.
Yeah. I guess I think, to me, I always think of communication as a task. Just because it's so much email and so much coordination.
It's got to be somewhere. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any thoughts on an ideal state on team charters and their goals? Okay. I think the spacing here got messed up a little.
Yeah, there's a box.
Where's the box? Okay, it's too big. So roles, clearly identify, define, delineate roles and responsibilities, both task and process. There's the box. So what are your thoughts on roles?
So I'd say for an ideal, sorry, I'm really tired. Group would be that each person has like a specific role. So like how you're the host of the meeting and you record it. Another person could be like the editor of every document we do. I don't know, like something like that. Like each person having a specific role in the group.
And I think like in an ideal charter, it might, like for me, when I've worked on somewhat of a team charter, we never really call them team charters because it's just kind of like a roles and responsibility breakout. And it includes all these aspects as well. But looking at roles people would play that aren't necessarily on your initial team. So that might be the role that finance might play or IT within your project. So identifying, for me, an ideal charter would identify that at this stage, so those partnerships can be built later on, cultivated.
I think roles A would be at the beginning of a team formation to identify people's knowledge and skill set and recognize who is proficient at what task or what knowledge set, and clearly defining certain aspects of team responsibilities to however it pertains to that certain set of skills.
Yeah, I know in some of the project charter documents I've seen in my company, it's just multiple departments, like at a department level, describing each department that's going to play a part in the project, and then specifies exactly what they're responsible for and kind of, what piece of it they own.
The only other thing I have to add too that I got from the readings was about norms and how they kind of help establish and control each team member's behavior within their roles too.
Is that somebody's beepers at this meeting?
I think we're good.
I just want to hold on. Let me make sure it's still recording. Okay. So norms, identification. Very cool. Did anybody else have anything to add in roles? Okay. Expectations. Clearly and specifically define expectations and measurable behaviors in each area. Align with your weekly team performance assessment. Include how will you do it? How will you present it to be graded, and what % of overall grade will each section be? Rick? So what are your thoughts?
Well, looking through each one of the categories under this, I don't know how you could really make one of higher value than the other, considering they all kind of lead into one another. Participation comes from communication. Communication leads to teamwork. And, they all kind of are interdependent on one another. To me, they would almost seem all equal value.
I think too, and this is where like expectations is a little bit harder for me in real life, just because sometimes you don't know what you should be expecting at the beginning stages of a project from certain departments. So as the project evolves or as it evolves, it may require that person or that department to do a little bit more. So that's always, when I'm kind of working on a new project, that's kind of something that I'm thinking about, kind of making it more vague on the departments that I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to need from them down the line, especially when I'm working with a department that's hesitant in the past. For me, it's finance, like working with finance and they always want me to give them like literally a month notice on any report I need. And I don't necessarily know what I need yet a month out. So being kind of vague at first and finding a way around that has always been a challenge for me as far as expectations. But I do agree with you. It kind of just all flows into each other: communication, teamwork, participation, organization, productivity. Organization might be able to stand on its own. But does anybody else have any thoughts or experiences around this?
Well, maybe your example kind of says a little bit about how we should define this. Like, for instance, you said communication. Certain department requires you to have something a month out, and you can't always produce that. So maybe under communication, we could define our expectations as relaying or communicating information in a timely manner as to, facilitate efficient workflow. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think when we circle back around, we can definitely word it in that manner.
Yeah, I think most of my comments that I have in this section are all kind of specific to our tasks, and I realize that they don't really mean much till we start talking about what were our actual charter. So should we move on to policies? Or do you want to put stuff in there? Or I mean, I think
No, I think let's just go through everything. Did anybody have any other thoughts within communication, teamwork, participation, organization, productivity, based on what you read, your experiences? Okay. I just don't want to overscroll. Policies. Define policies as well as corrective actions for failing to meet expectations and rewards for going above and beyond duties.
I know for me, when anybody ever goes above and beyond what their expectations are, they usually get rewarded with we call them Homer badges, and if you get 3, you get like a certain monetary amount added to your check. And then you also have just like a Bravo award, which is peer-to-peer recognition, which is something that we do for good behavior or going above and beyond normal everyday tasks.
When I've read just internal team charters or charters like this, typically what's listed here, at least in my experience, are the bonuses, like meeting a deadline on time, percentage bonuses to that target is usually identified here. And it's kind of like that binding contract, right? Like if you hit that number, then this is what you're gonna get. In my experience, I've never really seen the corrective action part listed. I think it's just kind of under the umbrella of human resources and whatever it falls in. If you do something negligent or gross, some gross misconduct, I think it just falls under the company policy. But policies within a project, I don't have much experience in this. I don't know if it's our company just kind of skips over this part or what.
I think it is, to be honest with you, because I've been with Starbucks for about 2 years now, and I feel it's just a Starbucks way to not really focus on the negative, because if you ever are in a situation where you have to use corrective action, then there's a plan for it. But then I've worked for other companies that the policy was set in black and white, and if you do this, you get this. If you do this, you get this, and it was just so different in atmosphere. Like my last job, it was I was a restaurant manager, but it was within a casino, and casinos are very regulated, and so everything was very clearly defined. And then I worked for Starbucks, and for the first year, I'm like, do they even tell anybody to do something wrong? It was just very much in the background of what Starbucks is as a company. But I agree, the corrective action part's just not there, which I guess means we're not doing anything wrong, because those people who are know that they've done something, but it takes that much extra, I feel, within Starbucks.
Just in my experience in the last 6 years with this company, it's just everything's more geared towards improving rather than looking back and seeing what you did wrong. It's like, okay, how can we help you be better?
Yeah.
So this part for me, I was like, I don't even have that much experience in it. But the rewards that I get, I mean, I have a lot of experience in that. But
I always think of policies at a much higher level, like at the corporate level, or not associating policies at a team level, or as part of a team charter.
For my work, since we're ISO 9000 certified, we actually do have corrective action policies. They're called CAPAs, and anytime corrective action is defined as something that's required to correct anything that affects the customer's product. So we're required to fill out a form which goes into a system and is reviewed at the end of every month by higher managers anytime a situation happens. But I also work in an operations type setting where everything is heavily flow oriented, and any setbacks or errors can really set back other departments. So I do work with corrective action procedures, but unless we had a predefined a definition of what our company or team is, I don't know how you could really relate a corrective action procedure to it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could think of within a team is kind of like a sit-down meeting with the department manager, like to, again, improve on actions. So, like, for example, if there was a student in this group that constantly wasn't showing up, like one thing that in my other class that we doing groups as well, we talked about, okay, if you miss 2, then you have to send an email to the instructor just to let them know, because there's no visibility of you coming or not to these calls, because we don't record it on the other one. It's just kind of like we finish the paper and we have a final product, and that's what we submit. There's like nothing for the instructor to know like who did it or not. So early on, we committed to like, okay, like 2 absences, like we're sending a note, and that's kind of how we decided to hold each other accountable. Any other thoughts on policies? Okay, so procedures. Define how the team will take action, enforce policies, reward excellence, and manage performance. I think we touched a little bit on that with policies.
I think one way of managing performance that I do at my work is just weekly update meetings to gauge, where we're at with certain projects.
That's a good call.
I think having an agenda is an important part of procedures. I think especially in this with our team builder, setting the agenda so everybody sort of knows what's going on and how everybody's going to take care of everything and go through the procedures.
For me, one thing that we do is we have a rotation in our team as far as leading, whether it be leading a call or a meeting. We rotate that responsibility. And that's something that we do every start of the year. We break out like a rotation list and make sure, and that helps us too as far as understanding what it takes to pull off a meeting, a good meeting, and all the logistics and engagement around it. Reward excellence and manage performance.
As far as managing performance, on the website we were given, they had, I don't know if you saw, there was like a diagram of how to deal with managing performance, where it would have you observe the behavior, then infer the meaning of the behavior, decide how to intervene, describe the behavior to, I guess, the other group members, and then share what was happening, and then deciding as a group how to manage it. So if there was something that came about in a group, you would have a group process of dealing with the behavior to be able to best rectify it.
Actually, I'll have to go back. Do you remember which one that was? Because that one doesn't even sound familiar. I thought I grabbed all of
the website. There were so many different, that was so much information. I'll make a note by it and let you know which one it is. But it was a really cool little graph. I just didn't note where I put it from, so I'll let you know where I did get it from. But it was a cool little graph that showed that.
The textbook also has, there was something about procedures like for decision making, right? If you're part of a team and they have to make decisions, like what process it would go through to make decisions. That's probably true in a lot of different things, like, you know, what's going to be on the next week's agenda, like we're saying, that, you know, set an agenda, all that kind of stuff.
The forming, storming, norming, then performing. I think that's what they use, like in so many different things, those steps, like you're saying, defining, analyzing, considering it, and deciding, and then developing an action plan. I saw that one too.
it. Ready to move on to the next one? Operations. Describe the process the teams use to function. Decision making. Is there going to be a box in between that? Or is it like a sub?
I don't think there's a box.
Okay. It's just these missing Roman numerals are throwing me off. Decision making, indicate when and how the team will make decisions.
As far as how I came up with, I think one of the best practices is a consensus amongst the team on how we'll make the decision. We talk about it and I'll agree on something to move forward with that.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I think maybe it should be noted too that like every point of view or every opinion or every idea of each teammate will be considered, which kind of goes along with
considered but not necessarily used.
Yeah, well, yeah, all ideas should be considered and evaluated before a final decision is made on one.
Mm-hmm. I've always been on teams where a lot of the bigger decisions are made early on, but then there's always so much creativity and there's so many, like a diverse set of people on the team where they're able to add value in different ways as the project gets going. And a lot of those smaller decisions that we think is small become really much bigger parts of the project, kind of come into play later on in the project. And for me, since I'm the person coordinating everything, it's always been hard to kind of adjust towards those new decisions and adjustments. But I find a lot of value in that, and appreciate it, just because it makes whatever project we're doing a little bit better and elevated. But I don't think all the decisions can be made early on, and I know a lot of teams want to do that right off the bat, but I do think there has to be some room for flexibility. The next one is conflict resolution. Explain how the team will handle internal conflict.
I think we kind of talked about that with our last conversation too. Making sure that we're discussing our possible points of view. And then you observe the little graph that I was talking about where you observe behavior and talk about it.
Tessa, you're cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, a little better.
Okay. Just with the, like, I kind of think the conversation that we had before kind of ties in with the way you would handle conflict resolution, through talking about it as a group and coming to a consensus on how to deal with it. I feel like we kind of covered it in our past 2 talks that we had by not even realizing we covered it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's kind of intertwined into the like performance management, right? It's inherent with conflict. But you know what? One thing I didn't read or I didn't catch in the reading was why conflict resolution is just well, I guess if it was external, it would be a problem that needed to be solved. I was just thinking, wouldn't there be conflict externally as well? But I guess this is specific to just this team. Just because I'm dealing with it right now with the vendor. I guess that would be a problem-solving issue. The next one is problem solving. Identify how the team will work together to overcome barriers and obstacles.
So I did have a few things that I jotted down on that as well. That it has to be a systematic process that you're going to use. I guess it's kind of similar to what we talked about with the problem solver, the conflict resolution, but defining the problem first. Sometimes that's the biggest challenge. You don't know exactly what's wrong. Analyzing it, considering alternatives, and then deciding on a solution, but then developing an action plan to deal with it. And I think that's something that even with work, you kind of do, maybe not step by step, but you do it without realizing it. In order to solve the plan, you have to have that action plan to solve it.
I absolutely agree. Like you said, identifying the problem first really. is the most important that people get frustrated. But I think for me, the ideal team charter would include some verbiage around trying to resolve it one-on-one first, with your group, your teammates, and even, I don't know, not arbitration, but even involving a third party to help with that. Because I know at work when I have conflicting views on a project, I always within our team. There's 8 of us in the U.S. We'll always bring in somebody else to kind of get their thoughts, just kind of an outside perspective, to kind of settle the argument or the problem on how we should approach it. Does anybody else have any thoughts on problem solving?
Yeah, this kind of pertains to conflict resolution too as well, but I remember reading in the book a thing about using like rational thought rather than emotion. Rational, it actually referred to conflict. It was like it pertained to using rational conflict rather than emotional, because when you think rationally through conflict, or in a sense the way to solve a problem, you leave emotion out of it, and it's more objective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's important just to clearly state the problem, just to make sure everybody agrees on exactly what the problem is, and kind of document, different alternatives before you get too far down the path.
Process improvement procedures. Explain how the team will monitor, implement, and track improvements to team processes.
One of the ways that we do this at my work has to go along with that corrective action procedure. At the end of a project, we do a post-project review, and all those corrective action procedures are reviewed and addressed, and then the team discusses, procedures to improve and reduce those kinds of actions. So something along the lines of a post-project review type meeting.
That's very similar to something we do. We use SurveyMonkey just because it links into OneDrive, and it can capture all the surveys kind of anonymously, and the feedback, and it recaps it nicely based on each question. But for us, it's something that we're able to look at for the next project and really address, like, okay, because we deal with field leaders, and we really are aiming to better their experience at as being a leader kind of remotely. So we can have one manager and they span over an entire state. So making sure that we're improving their experience as much as we can, and we do that through just SurveyMonkeys. We also do things like quick polls, like Outlook polls, where we can send out like a quick question and then they can click an answer. Similar to like what you guys see like on Facebook polls. Something else that we do to monitor is we have, when we work in a team, we post everything to OneDrive. So we see how, like, what each other is working on and how far along we are in those commitments that we made. So any one of us can open your documents and see how, like, what you've been doing. And it's like all timestamped, like all your edits are timestamped. So we can see how often you're editing or adding to it. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
I just think that's also sometimes OneNote isn't so great when you forgot a deadline or a date and you reply a little too late. Because that's how
there's no way to sneak it in anymore. But it's all good. Ideally, nobody's looking at those times. They're just looking at the content. Changes in team membership. I'm sure we all have experience in this, right? Turnover, adds, promotions into our team. Identify how the team will address additions, reductions, and replacements of team members.
I know for us, we have a new associate coach. So whenever somebody new joins the team, they get to spend a week after they do their online training courses with that associate to get a better feel and get a hands-on approach. And usually everybody is receptive to the new associate, and they are helpful. I'm not sure what else we're digging for here.
I'm actually dealing with this right now in my other class where we had 5 modules and 5 team members and 1 dropped in week 2. And usually in online courses, people drop within the 2nd or 3rd day. And so we had already built our charter and everybody created kind of their own timeline on their module that they're being assigned. And right now we're trying to figure out kind of early on we identified like, okay, this person is going to pick up this extra module, but we circled back around and saw like, okay, there's a lot involved in that one module for that person to have done 2 in this course. So we're kind of in the midst of updating our team charter around that. But I think everybody's bringing ideas and being open and looking at what the content, not the content, but the things, I guess, what slack needs to be picked up, and really being realistic if one person or several people need help with that is important. Because I think that person who volunteered for it was like, yeah, you know, it's 1 module, and then she didn't realize, like, oh my God, it's a lot. Did anybody else have any other thoughts on changes in team membership?
Yeah, just one quick thing. One thing that we do is in my engineering department, we identify the skills and abilities and knowledge set of the addition or the reduction and decide where roles can be either spread out or relinquished and given to the new addition.
That's a good strategy. What's the next one? Let me just look how far. Okay. So changes to the charter. Oh, I went ahead. I was speaking earlier. So changes to the charter indicate how revisions will be made as the team evolves.
Do you have to have complete consensus in order to change the charter? Does it have to be unanimous? Or can it just be majority vote?
I think our goal is always to be 100% on board, but there's always times where people have to get overridden. Changes to the charter.
I know for some of the meetings that we have at work, we make sure that like any revisions to procedures or work instructions or anything that we do is always brought up at the beginning or ending of a meeting, never in the middle. It's also preferred that it's brought up at the end of the meeting to be addressed in the next meeting, which allows everybody in the team to kind of investigate and evaluate what the proposed change means, and then they can discuss it at the next meeting.
I appreciate it when all that information is shared at the start of the meeting, because I feel like half the meeting checks out at the end. After, the last 10 minutes, everybody's thinking about how much traffic they're going to hit. And in my experience, like bringing that up ahead of time, or even if it is at the end, following up with everybody acknowledging it at least, is helpful. Because I've been in so many situations where the person's like, I don't remember that. And it was like, it was part of the last 10 minutes, so that's probably why.
We record all of our meeting minutes, so everybody is forced to review them pretty much. So there's no excuse for not remembering in our meetings.
I record them I do record them, but I guess getting everybody to review them. But yeah, there is absolutely no excuse if it was said. How about timeline and project plan? Detailed timeline, completion dates, process checks for each task or stage of the project assigned to specific team members.
I think this is also where you get into the procedures, like what do you do if the project's starting to slip? How do you get it back on track? What's the procedure for doing that to make sure that you're hitting all your dates?
I think for me, this is kind of just what we were talking about earlier, adding more detail to the syllabus and schedule. So whether that be project milestones and adding, like if the project is, doing a national meeting, sorry, if the milestone is coordinating like a national meeting, the different milestones under that, like, booking hotel or travel, I think the actual due dates when those things are due is something that I would put in this section. And just kind of, and who is responsible for it. And there was something I read. Did anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I think that the progress checks really help out to make sure that everything is getting done and that you are all working as a team so that the whole entire project is done in a timely manner.
Anybody else have any thoughts on it? Sorry, I'm getting a little scroll happy here. Any other thoughts on timeline and project plan? Okay. The next one, and I think this is the last section, shared accountability, sign and date agreement, each team member, or shared accountability. Like I guess in my experience, I've never had like hey, you sign here and date it like a contract. I think it's more of a virtual agreement, acknowledgement of the email or the charter that we put out for the project. Does anybody else have experience? Starters?
Sorry, I do. At the end of a project that we get issued, I put in, how many hours we spent on it, what date it was put in, and who did it. And then once I go to hit complete, a little pop-up window comes up and it says such and such project was completed on this. Were hours logged? Yes. So I'm kind of like sharing the accountability with my team and signing off that yes, we as a team completed it. And then it goes off to our corporate office in Magical Land.
I think in a classroom setting, it's good to have shared accountability because at times there are people who kind of pull more weight than others. And at least in this case, it's nice that everybody signs off because you're kind of signing on the dotted line. Okay, I'm responsible for this, and we're all responsible for this together. So I've never had either, like you said, Angelia, where you sign off on it, but I feel like in a classroom, it's nice because you're giving ownership to it. We're all giving ownership to it as a team.
And I think it's good just to know that the person read it because there's so much content being sent to us in the announcements. And having that comfort that the other parties read the charter is important as well.
Yeah, I've had to sign off on big projects. They'll send around the project charter just to make sure everybody understands what each department's doing, and they got to capture everybody's signature.
I think American Express is way more formal than Starbucks.
Yeah, very formal.
It's like at this company, it's okay to be late to a meeting if you're getting coffee.
That's hilarious.
It's not okay.
At American Express, it's okay to be late for a meeting if you outrank everyone else at the meeting.
For us, it's like, oh, I was getting coffee. Oh, got it. Stuck in the drive-thru. Oh, I get that. All right, I think that was the last section. I know we're past our hour that we originally committed to for this call. And so we have a couple choices here, I think. We can keep going and fill this out, or we can schedule another call. I don't know if it would be acceptable for us to kind of do this online. And you guys chime in if you have any other thoughts on this. But from my understanding, if we chose to do video, we're literally typing this up on video, right? Or no? Because I read her instructions around if you chose to do this through discussion board, you guys add your piece to it, and it gets pieced together. But since we chose to do it on video, from my understanding, we're typing it up on video. Is that how? Did anybody else understand it any other way?
Well, I don't think it would hurt to go in and have us each put something on the group discussion board now that we've gone through it and kind of the ideal thing as far as our team charter. I don't think it would hurt anything if we went through and just everybody kind of submitted their ideas for each section on the team discussion board. And then if we do get together again on video, we can kind of synthesize from those comments.
Okay. Does anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, it was my understanding that we had to do it through video, like you said.
Because I think, like, part of me agrees with Dave, like, that makes more sense. Like, for us, since we just all talked about it, us posting it and putting our thoughts, and then one of us kind of piecing it, like, making sure everything's edited. But it's just not how I read it. So what do we want to do as a team here?
I'm going through quickly and reading what she had written just to see if, because I think it's kind of nice to go in and use the discussion board too. I think it's kind of hard. I think we did a really great job going over the first half, but it's a lot of work. And I like the approach we've taken because we do get to see each other and we get to interact, but I feel like it's almost easier to do the discussion because you just have to type your thoughts and then everybody types their thoughts and then you're done. Where we're taking the extra step and really talking through it. But it seems like the best, like having the best of both worlds and being able to use the discussion post too. And I'm just reading through really quickly to see if there's something we missed, because I also feel like there was a lot of explanation on how to do the discussion written posts, but not a very big, there was a small little blurb about the video blurbs. So it's kind of hard for us to interpret it.
Please post your own completed ideals.
Maybe we should figure out if there is a time where we can get back together to do the video. Between now and Sunday, right?
I'm definitely available anytime on Sunday, and I have some Saturday availability too.
Yeah,
I'm available on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm available on Sunday too.
Okay.
Sunday's good for me. Ideally in the morning, but I can be flexible. Oh, my morning Pacific
It's
Standard.
my afternoon.
Yeah. I'm 2 hours behind Arizona time.
You know, that's probably something good to put on here, actually. Let me just go back up. Can we put time zones?
MST, Mountain Standard Time.
I'm Eastern Standard Time.
I'm Central.
What's the abbreviation for Central?
It's just SST.
CST?
Yeah.
Okay. Jess?
I'm Eastern.
Good.
Pacific.
Okay. Just so we have an idea and it's there. So Sunday morning, or Sunday, what time works for everybody? And for me, like 9 a.m. works. What is that, noon your time test? Or I can go earlier.
Anytime after 7 a.m. your time, I'm fine. So I've already had my coffee and relaxed in the morning before you even wake up. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with 9 a.m. Pacific. That makes it 11 for me.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Let me write that somewhere here. So Sunday, September 10th. What I can do is I can call Dr. Chanley and pass both strategies over and see if it's okay for us to have done part 1 in video and then part 2 on discussion boards. Because I think her office hours are up to 9 o'clock tonight, and she picked up last time I called, so I can call her to see if that's okay. Because is what I'm hearing, that's the ideal strategy, right? Is do it on discussion boards, and we all add our piece together. But if needed, we can meet on Sunday.
Yep.
Okay. And let me give her a call, and I'll message you guys on what she says, or if she's okay with that approach. But for now, let's just keep Sunday 9 a.m. Pacific open.
Oh, I also, before we conclude anything, I also wanted to mention that I was reading the Ask Dr. Chanley, and somebody had asked about submitting their video, and they had submitted it to the group file under our group, the bulletin board, rather than through YouTube. I don't know if that's any easier to do, quicker, or she said that was okay.
I did talk to her, and she said it's not ideal, but she'll accept it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just reading through and I saw that.
She told me it would take longer than it would on YouTube, and I have a YouTube account for my last class.
Oh, okay.
And I was used to it, so I just did it that way. And she said it was easier, so I thought we'd get her. It would just be an easier format for her.
Okay.
But okay, sounds good. I'm gonna stop the recording. I forgot we were still recording.